flying
Yeah.
in Swiss. Very good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great to be here. First and foremost, congratulations to Jonathan, FHS, and the team. 20 years in the making, an amazing platform. Great to be part of it. Much more to come in this exciting region, and congratulations again. Great build-up. What we've heard on concepts. As the introduction said, we now want to sort of like unpack this and see how this comes to life indeed in the operating model. I'm delighted to have a very distinguished panel this morning with Marcus from Marriott. He will introduce himself. I'll just quickly go through. Julien representing Numaraba, having great ambitions in Riyadh, the modern downtown indeed. Omar, great to have you. Taiba, of course, being a stalwart of the Saudi hospitality scene. And a quote-unquote, you're not a newbie, but Fina in the region, certainly. One could say the disruptor on the scene. Great to have you, Ben. You've been part with Alan. We heard Alan yesterday of an amazing journey. Much more to come. What I want to do today is indeed, and thanks for the amazing panels before. I think this gives a great context here with how the real estate is coming together. Convergence being the big trend. You heard it. We've seen it everywhere out of the pandemic. But there's also other topics that I want to address today. Consumer demands. The boomers are still traveling, I would say heavily. The Gen X less, they're working. but the millennials for sure, a key consumer group, and Gen X. Gen A right after that, and Z, of course. So we do have a new pattern of needs and wants that are coming. AI, I want to address how AI technology in general is having an impact from an operator lens, but importantly also from a developer/investment lens. So these are sort of the mega trends topics that I would like you, gents, to address from the various lenses. We have a nice spectrum here. Marriott, more the traditional, one would say, yes, with a lot of new additions. Citizen M, you just bought, congratulations. And Fina, again, more the disruptor. Numaraba clearly having great ambitions in redefining what a destination, a downtown is, and Taiba is really, as I said, a stalwart of investment, producing amazing returns for the shareholders. Marcus, let me start with you of sort of like unpacking this a little bit from a Marriott perspective, especially the demand side. How is Marriott investing and really staying relevant for indeed the Gen Z and even more the Gen A coming up, the millennials, of course, there today, and maybe pack into tech as well into your answer. That'd be great.
No, it's a small one. It was worthwhile coming over from Zurich. Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. I think of course every established hotel company has challenges and see what happens with the next generation. I remember 20 years ago, I read an article about the disruptor Generation X. They've become pretty established. And I would say in 20 years' time, we'll see that Generation Y and Z have also a certain level of grounding. Yeah, there is this phase, but that doesn't mean that, we can be complacent in this and we can expect people to come around to our products. These things have changed our world. You want to have a 15-bedroom penthouse in Rome, it takes you about 20 minutes to get it. So this is the challenge. People expect to get exactly what they want. Now, I do love the Zoku concept of this world. I must say this.
You just bought Citizen M.
Yes. I think we've just have to two buzzwords. We need humans in hotels, the human touch, and the Swiss Army knife. I've heard for the fourth time today. I believe there is something, the Swiss Army knife is deceiving because people want to have exactly what they want. They want to have a specialist product. They don't want to have something which is a little bit of that and a little bit of that. A room that you can convert into a conference room. I don't think that is what the market really is looking for. The market is looking for a conference hotel, an extended stay hotel, a lifestyle hotel, a luxury hotel, a resort.
So you want to cater to many, right? And you need.
But we need to, and that's why we're diversifying in so many brands. That's why we have a Citizen M. That's why we created a Moxy. That's why we have dedicated extended stay brands like Residence Inn by Marriott or now Studio Res. Because the segments are changing and we need to target our audience. And how do we do this? Bonvoy, a loyalty program that increases every month by 1 million members worldwide. But we also have to see, we look at this globally, and not every customer is very savvy. A lot of customers, when they travel to another country, are lost. Yeah? If we go to Shanghai, and we can't even read the street signs, we're probably going to be fairly lost, and we want to have some security. And the security is mainly where do we stay. And the same thing happens when the Chinese come to us. The same thing is when the Americans come to a destination where they don't speak the language and can't read the signs. And that's also a big segment what we need to cater for. So the market is hugely diverse, and that's our challenge, because properties are not.
Clear. And I will come back to you on certainly also management agreements and so forth, because they're an essential part of the operating model. But you're essentially building on trust and reliance to a large extent. Ben, I would want to bring you into that of sort of possibly taking a slightly different view. You're, of course, very targeted. We heard from Alan yesterday, was an amazing presentation. He thinks of your places not as hotels first and foremost, but experiences, places of encounter. What's your take on how you respond to that, the trends that are moving every one of us?
Thank you, Marco, and thank you. I'm thrilled to be on the panel representing Faena today. For those that were in yesterday's afternoon session or were not, just to share, Faena is doesn't just we think in terms of cultural brands and emotive experiences. For us, it's we're not just building hotels; we're shaping destinations that become really cultural, key cultural connected components of the community. It's combining residences, art, wellness, entertainment, culinary, and fashion, and retail into really a living, breathing narrative. So, you know, I think it is interesting as you talk through the consumer trends, and I agree with Marcus. We looked at Gen X, and now they're very established. And what I see, you know, when you look at the human truths from Gen X, Gen Z, Millennial and Gen Z represent 50% of the current luxury consumer. And the Alpha, Gen Alpha, that is coming fast behind them, they're all looking for what we're seeing is a similarity from what they're looking for is really that experiential, something that reflects their own individuality, that speaks to them. They're looking for destination-led storytelling. It's whether it's traveling for leisure or business. I think from what Hans talked about prior in the previous panel and what the previous panel talked about, there's amalgamation. People aren't choosing a property for just work or just leisure. We're seeing it really come together very fluidly. So how are you designing your spaces? We first start with the question of not what are we designing from a hotel perspective, but what world are we creating? We don't necessarily look at the destination when we're looking at locations for, you know, the traditional term of main and main. I think what we're seeing is consumers will travel to a brand that reflects themselves, or where they feel that they can connect with that local community. We're seeing it also in the residential space that, you know, Knight Frank came out with a study that the ultra high net worth individuals are now considering brand over location. So I do think that there's so much changing that it's more around how are you developing and staying true to your brand and your brand ethos, and then weaving it into that landscape of the local community, and not stopping at the four walls of your project.
I have one key question for you, Ben, and of course, roaring success, the properties you have in Buenos Aires, Miami, now New York, so resort and urban, but they're, to a large extent, yes, you created the community, but they're also a real estate play, right? So how are you going to scale that up from an operating and delivery model perspective? Are you going to go asset light as well and create that community, or is the real estate component, as Citizen M and Soku are real estate plays as well? Many are real estate plays at the core. What's the take there?
Yeah,
Because here the trend is clearly asset light, right?
Yeah, and
Where are you going to double down?
We've played the role for 2 of our 3 properties as both developers and executing on the creative concept. New York, we are in as the management group. So I think we will go asset light, and it's about co-creating with our partners, our developer partners. I think we really invite our developer partners to be at the table as we think through that world that we're developing for that destination. We develop, when you think about our district in Buenos Aires, that started really as 2 buildings, and then it converged and became 11 as we developed the resi product around that. Miami, equally from a residential perspective, was key to our success. But when you think about the art centers that we built, and Alan talked a lot about the programming that we do that is really about engaging the community from an art and cultural perspective, and it's open and free to the public. We do 4 large exhibits annually in each one of our art centers. We actually have a fine art prize that we provide out to the art community. So you really
create a district, a community.
We create that district which elevates the real estate at a level that is really above market. When we look at the velocity of sales of our resi and the absorption rate, again, it is above market. Because people are buying into truly a lifestyle experience that is beyond an aesthetic. I think that's where we see a lot of brands when we look at legacy brands that are challenged in translating their aesthetic strength into consistently diversified guest experiences, especially when translating to the resi market.
We'll elaborate on that, because you mentioned a couple of keywords in the operating model, that convergence. Julian, you're overseeing not only the Mocab, which is an icon destination, but there will be a very large master plan. What they have been doing in a smaller scale, you have the ambition of that literally being the Riyadh downtown and much more. How are you taking in what you're hearing here, and how are you going to apply that into the Numaraba context?
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm very delighted to represent NMDC today, Numaraba Development Company. Our role, we're a master developer in the northwest of Riyadh. We have a plot of land, for the people who don't know, of 1,400 hectares, and we're developing what we call a new downtown. It's a little bit arrogant to say new downtown in a city that already has 8 million people living there. But basically, we have a positioning where we're saying, well, in Riyadh, for those who don't know, most people live in villas, and we're going to change that, and we want people to live in the modern way of living. It's hospitality, not hospitality, modern way, apartment living. So that's what we call it new, because we'll bring density and green space and not all car dependent, and that we'll be able to have a living space and that is more convenient, let's put it this way, no cars, or not a lot. So that's what we do, and at the center of this downtown, there's this legacy building called the Mocab, the Cube, which is an element in itself. But I think to come back to the panel, we are taking a step back and saying, okay, in terms of hospitality, why and what do we need? I mean, we're way back, you guys already have guests there in Marriott, you also are company guests. We're one step behind. It says, what kind of hotels do we want?
You have a clean slate.
Yeah, how big do they want them? What are the value proposition of each hotels? why would people come to us, and why would these hotels be, let's say, profitable, and they be, and what kind of experience we want our guests to come here. So we were able to actually use the modern trends, do primary surveys, and investigate what people want to have when they come to New Murabba or to the Mokab. And actually, it's very interesting because I take a slightly different view from you gentlemen. I'm not a big fan of Le Couteau Suisse, even though respect to you, I know you're Swiss, but no harm. I think people, there's a moment for everything. And you're going to go to the ultra luxe at one point, even though you're a young generation, because there's a special moment that you really want to have with your close ones, with your parents, whatever. And that's that value proposition. And you're traveling on your own, and you want that corporate hotel because that's what you need at that very moment. And I still think in our business of hospitality, there's a moment for things. Now, our job with the team here that's with us is choosing the right operators, the right brands for that. But on our side, I think differentiation, segmentation is more important than fusion.
Clear. Thank you, Julien. Taiba, and of course with Dor, who you merged with, has been owning, operating in Saudi for a long time. Now things are changing. How do you deal with all of that? And especially also, how do you select which operating model that really works for your trading or new acquisitions? And especially on the investment side, I would want to start addressing also the tech component a little bit more. So Omar, if you could elaborate on that. Would be
Gladly. Thank you for having me. And glad to represent Taiba. And coming previously from Dur, this marks my 10th year working in hospitality in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Absolutely amazing times to be here. And with Taiba Hospitality drawing in on more than 50 years of being exclusively vested in the kingdom. So we always have the North Star of being first investors in hospitality and operators second. So we're always looking at how to improve the decision making, the investment decision making. And today I think we reach at this cusp of technological advancement where when we look at the abundance and the overflow of data, and especially location-based data, we see this as enabling the investment decision, and not just only to decide upon the location itself, but also the product itself. So today, when we live in a world of abundance of data, where more than 80% of the data generated has a location-based component to it, we're starting to experiment with and pilot how this can aid our investment decision. So think about it like having an X-ray vision, seeing in the market what others do not see. If you get to see where your guests come from, and this is observed demand, you see them in real time, where they come from, how they stay in your hotel, where they go after they leave your hotel, where do they dwell, their behavioral patterns. This enables us to explore with more confidence new concepts that push the envelope in terms of technology. Think about it like before Spotify, we all more or less listen to the same music, but what Spotify presented with it understanding your preference of data, it introduced this long tail of tastes and experiences. So now you have the algorithm presenting to you in the artists that you never knew you would like until it understood your preference. So this is why we're investing heavily in guest analytics to really have that pinpoint accuracy of matching the preference, and would help us to really pursue in new concepts. And this takes us to where you started from now with Generation Z and now Generation Alpha, who are going to be AI native, the first generation that's going to be AI native. I've read a survey not too long ago where, I think it was in the US, where 65% of Gen Zs self-identify as digital content creators. So this creates implications for hotels. So should we go to the extent of, for example, having a creator business center ready for the YouTube creators or the TikTok creators, which I still don't understand. I understand YouTube, but I haven't got to the TikTok creator. So what about creator-ready rooms? Is this something that the industry needs to look at in terms of acoustics, backdrops, you know, this entire ecosystem? When you have the right data, you can start making the right decisions on such concepts. But again, I also resonate with my colleagues that when it comes to being future-proof, I think the essence of it is the ethos. When you have the brands that have really mastered the service ethos of the hotel industry over generations. So they do have that formula on those ethos that transcend generations. And I think they will be very much suited to adapt very well. This is not to say anybody is disruption-proof, but I think they have proven the track record of creating brands that really captured the passion of the founders, and then it was carried very nicely through the organization, and I think they're very...
So you're really alluding to the hyper-personalization and in the content creation,
True,
right? Absolutely.
true, absolutely, I think they're opportunities.
Marcus, that element, the tech element, especially in how you interact and especially in distribution, there is a potential next big disruption in how rooms are distributed. You book directly in chat and not even on maybe Marriott and so. What's Marriott's view there? And then importantly also, you alluded to it before, the investors are becoming increasingly smarter with their own data analytics, and you have your budget meetings still, right? How is Marriott investing into tech there?
Well, I think it's probably two areas where AI will not touch, and that's dishwashing and housekeeping. And
ask Elon, he would beg to differ.
There may be, and I know that there's already one disruptor out there who thinks, oh, we can do that too. So I think what we have at the moment is, of course, a little bit of a status of anarchy. AI goes wild, and there is a lot of wild growth, and we have to prune it, and we have to see how can we adapt it. I mean, every one of us has probably...
Let me, not only AI, but the tech. I mean, I personally believe that the hospitality is, in a sense, certainly in the back end, we're laggards to a large extent. A lot is not fully automated. How is Marriott, so it's the tech, it's not, I don't want to make this an AI conversation. No. It's really the tech per se, right?
Okay, well, I think that we, of course, it's always difficult when you have 9,500 hotels that you have to sort of modify. So you have to have carefully crafted systems, and you need to make sure
legacy.
That you are that you are in, creating new technologies in a way that are sound in many ways, also legally, etc., from a data protection point and all of that. I think that Bonvoy is our tool that really does that. We're collecting. We have the largest collection of customer data.
You own the data.
We own the data, and we can certainly detect a lot from that data and can customize. And yes, I totally agree with you. It is a customized play, and we need to adapt to this customization. People expect that. Not everybody, but many do, and I think it will be more. I wonder whether at some stage there is a certain tiredness of only tech. I think at some stage people will want to see people again, want to have a friendly smile when they check in, and
And that would be exactly my question to,
Yeah,
to
I
Ben. How
think-
much is there even tech
But I
at
love
all, right?
disruptors. I love disruptors.
And I love the data aggregation that you have access to is amazing, and the predictive analytics that I'm sure Marriott has and is using to think through their investment strategy and their growth is far superior to any other group out there. I agree. Our industry, we have to remember, is about human connection. It's one of the oldest industries in the world, innkeeping, and that's not going to change. I think it's where can we, technology is not a layer to our business, it's a backbone.
Yep.
I think we have been archaic in the past because we've had so many legacy systems, and technology has just is growing at such an exponential rate that as an industry we've always been slightly archaic to change.
Rightfully so.
Right, it's just been our track record. So I think when we look at, Mark, you mentioned that you don't want this to be an AI conversation. It's hard to break apart the large language models like chat and the other ones that exist from the conversation around technology, because it's changing how people are consuming us and finding and choosing how they want to travel. Yes. It's a complete shift in paradigms for us as marketers, and how to really make sure our product is represented through these large language models. But I think the large language models embedded within our tech stack on the property level is critical, because that allows for that ultra personalization. I think where we see, McKinsey came out with a study that said between 40 to 60% of the back office roles by 2027 are going to be replaced by AI. And I think a lot of people say, oh, that's going to be great savings and efficiency. However, I do think, Marcus, when you talk through this pendulum swing for more human connection, I think we need to take some of that savings and put it into front of house and really create those human-to-human connection moments. Whether that's in the butler experience, where we can really start to really elevate the magic of hospitality and human connection and those moments of joy. So I do think it is a critical component. We are seeing it already change how we handle CRM, creative workflows, itinerary creation. The whole concierge model is shifting. So there's a lot.
I could see Julian itching to have a view on that as well, but because you do propose, and the ambition is to have a modern, smart city downtown. So what's your view on that?
My view on this is that technology is an enabler, and whatever you talk about, you're also saying, well, technology is basically back office, reservations, data, etc. But how has technology helped the experience? That's where we are at right now. So the technology, what's the worst thing to do? You can't, you have a super technology room, you can't close the lights in the evening. I mean, this happened to all of us. And this is technology, but it's not helping the experience. Well, so why do we use it?
Technology for tech's sake.
Yeah, exactly. And in my opinion, first of all, I totally agree with you guys that human is the key to hospitality. So, for example, we're thinking about a project where they're going to have a human hub. It's called the Human Hub at the reception area, which used to be a reception, because you have facial recognition. You can go to your room directly, but it doesn't suit everybody, and your technology doesn't work on your phone. When you go to a Marriott hotel, you can say, oh, you can put this app, and your phone becomes your room key. How many people really do it?
It's amazing. My colleagues do it. I've never done it. Don't tell anybody.
I guess it's a generational thing.
Because
maybe.
it's
well, I'm there. I've never done it myself.
For me, it's really, I mean, for us, I think it's technology enabler, but technology experience.
Yes.
That's
so
for
high
me
tech,
critical.
yes, but high touch
how?
is the differentiator, right? Yeah.
You still need a shower, bed, and,
Of course,
and a view.
Absolutely.
I think what you really would need is a hotel that is sort of, 20% Four Seasons, 10% extended stay, 20% sort of something else, where you could sort of really
But we
create
have 7 hotels, so we have one of each.
Yeah. Yet still, it is there. It's not going to go away. We ran a survey on AI with 30 plus leaders here in the region, running large companies. A report will be published in the coming days on AI. And indeed, legacy, the big topic, is an issue, of course. Riyadh Air is doing an amazing thing. They do actually do away with all the legacy, so it could be done of starting from scratch. There are opportunities, but typically legacy is the issue. Adoption is very high, but implementation is, we haven't seen nothing in terms of AI. That's sort of the headlights of our report coming out on this in the next couple of days. Still, Omar, in the investment world, I mean, look at asset management. Quant trading is a formidable competitor, right? So and distribution is very close. Yield management and so forth, that must be, still, you alluded to it before.
Yes.
I would, though, and you are an employer of a lot of Saudis and a lot of employees. At the end of the day, we talked about tech, but just in closing, people. At the end of the day, especially in the Saudi context, you as a large employer, what's your view on the workforce agenda?
That's a very good question. So when we look at the market that we're completely focused on, which is Saudi Arabia, everybody can acknowledge today that the challenge is in building rooms. This is what we all see. But more strategically speaking, I think it's going to be, the challenge will be bigger in terms of operating the rooms on the long term rather than just building them today. When we look at the Vision 2030 ambition,
yes,
and the
key agenda.
Yes, the number
the
of keys.
localization, the Saudization.
Absolutely,
yes.
The number of keys that are in the pipeline is just mind-boggling, and this will put a huge pressure down the value chain on the talent and the availability of talent. And this is where I believe that the kingdom has all the right building blocks right in place. So you have, when you look at the GCC, it's one of the largest populations in the GCC, even the Arab world or MENA region. Very young population. So what we need to do as investors and operators is to build the bridge, yes, for this talent. And this is where we've been seeing the Ministry of Tourism investing heavily.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, they've been investing heavily in really top-notch, world-class training programs targeting Saudi youth. And we've also mirrored this internally. We have our own internal academy for hospitality development, and we've also partnered with some of our strategic partners like Marriott. So it's creating that ecosystem, and I think this is where the technology comes in to really help take this off and to surmount this enormous challenge. So that's the take on the workforce, but speaking around, and I can relate to what my colleagues have been talking about. When we look at the technology on a broader sense in hospitality, I think, and if history is any measure of the future, I think technology within the hotel has always suffered from the fragmentation. So you see islands or hotels where they have very advanced technologies, then you go to other hotels, and to me, this becomes not knowing what to expect. You go into a hotel and then you start looking, okay, where do I have the room services? Is it WhatsApp this time, or is it going to be through the app, or is it going to be a barcode? But I think what could be brewing is something on the edges of the hotel, where technology could really create the next disruption.
Yeah.
Over the past probably 20 years, the biggest disruptions, structural disruptions in the industry came from the OTAs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the home sharing and the Airbnbs. And now more and more we see ourselves, I see myself resorting to the agentic AI. I don't want to go through the endless lists and filters to look for the next suitable hotel. I actually do that. I go into ChatGPT or Gemini, or sometimes I do both, just to see where they align. And you can actually carry a humanized conversation, a natural conversation, saying, you know, I'm going to Dubai between these dates, I have this budget, and I want...
It's become very powerful, yeah.
It's going to be very
makes
powerful.
decision or prepares decisions for you. Thank you, Ahmad. And especially also the workforce agenda, the high touch element, where I feel personally, as a Swiss, having come here to the region, what really motivates me, yes, being able to, indeed also from a tech perspective, start with a clean slate, but especially in Saudi, in the wider region, the culture of hospitality, which is an amazing baseline to build on, and empower, support the young Saudis who are really, very capable, very open, very hungry, and to be able to support them with such great minds coming in, to have a future in this industry is ultimately rewarding. So thank you, gents. We unfortunately ran over time, but thanks for the inputs, and please, audience, welcome me and congratulations to the panelists. Thank you so much.